privilege and say how delighted and honored I am to stand here and moderate this forum as you, the citizens of Norcross, go out and make your decision known for the next mayor of Norcross. Prior to that, before that, I want to reiterate some things that has already been said. As mentioned, this forum is sponsored by the Gateway 85C ID, and we thank them for their ongoing support. We would also like to thank Refresh for providing this evening's water. If you were in attendance last Thursday council forum, much of this will sound familiar, although due to the importance of this seat and fewer candidates, some of the timing has been altered, and I will explain that in a moment. First, take a moment and silence all cell phones or electronic devices. If you must take a call, please excuse yourself from this area here to do so. I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone with the city of Norcross who helped to organize this important event. As always, we appreciate the support of the Norcross Police Department and their common presence. Give the police department a round of applause. I would like to thank the two gentlemen who have stepped forward to run for mayor. I will introduce them to you in a few moments. Tonight's forum is being video recorded and will be posted on the city's website for you and your others that could not attend this evening. I would now like to go over the ground rules for tonight's forum. All of the candidates were asked what 3 or so topics they would like to have covered this evening. In addition, a designated email address was set up and received a number of questions submitted by residents. Many of those questions will be interspersed throughout this evening. The specific questions have not been shared with the candidates, although the possible general topics have been. Due to time, some of these may not be covered. Before I read each question, I will let the candidates know what the order will be for that question, and I will alternate between the two candidates. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for an opening statement. The sequence of opening and closing statement was determined by the luck of the draw by blindly choosing numbers 1 or 2. That's either 1 or 2. Questions will be asked in a revolving format that will give each candidate an equal opportunity. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each question. Once we've completed the question, each candidate will have 3 minutes for a closing statement. These are the expanded times that I mentioned earlier. After the final closing comments, the remainder of the evening will be spent as an informal time to meet one-on-one with the candidates and discuss questions that may not have been covered in the formal forum. The ending time for this meet and greet will be around 8:30. The timekeeper, right here, will hold up a sign when the candidate has 15 seconds to complete a statement or answer. The candidate may complete his current sentence, but will not be permitted to start another sentence at that time. Talking when another candidate has the floor is not permitted. Please keep in mind that this is not a rally for voters who have already made up their minds, but a nonpartisan meeting for those who have not. We understand that many of you have strong feelings about this election, but others have come here tonight to help them decide how to vote. Please let us use our time for discussion of the issues. Therefore, we ask you to refrain from your applause or making any noises or statement during the forum. You are permitted to applaud at the end of each candidate's closing statement if you wish. Once again, a reminder to please silence all cell phones and electronic devices. Now, I am honored to introduce our 2 candidates who are running for mayor of the great city of Norcross. Please join me in welcoming the incumbent mayor, the Honorable Craig Newton, as well as current Councilman Chuck Paul. We will commence with the opening statements. Mr. Paul drew the first number, so he will begin with the opening statements to Paul.
Thank you very much. And good evening, Norcross. My name is Chuck Paul. Many of you already know me as I'm active in the civic and social fabric of Norcross. Others may know me by way of my food pictures on Facebook. Actually, I put one on there today. For those that don't know me, allow me to give you some background. I moved to unincorporated Norcross 30 years ago, and in 2011, I moved to my present home on Martin Street. 25 years ago, I founded A Closer Look, which is a marketing research firm that I successfully ran until my retirement in 2018. I'm proud to have taken that business from the back of a napkin to a multi-million-dollar company, and one that continues to provide secure employment for some 20 folks right here in Norcross. And one of them is actually in this room tonight. When I retired, I wanted to make sure A Closer Look would be in good hands, and it is. So now I feel it is my time to give back to the community I love by participating directly in our city government, keeping in mind that I don't play golf. 2 years ago, I ran for and was honored to be elected to Norcross City Council. Now I'm ready to take the next step to bring new leadership to the city of Norcross as your mayor. Many people have asked me, why would I give up a vote on council for a non-voting position as mayor? If you're wondering that same question, it's a good one. The answer is to listen, communicate, collaborate, and to lead. Without a vote, unless there's a tie on council, it's more important than ever that our mayor project the kind of leadership that brings our citizens, government leaders, and policymakers together to listen and collaborate on issues while keeping everyone informed. As your mayor, I will use my leadership skills to bring a new openness and proactive communication to City Hall. That means ensuring that there are clear channels of communication, from the city's website to social media, to more informative emails. It's not enough to say you can find it on the website. We need to be more assertive in letting our citizens know about the decisions that mayor and council make that will directly impact their lives, as well as how, when, and where citizens can have a voice in those decisions. I will work diligently to communicate and collaborate with our great city staff, neighboring cities, the county, the state, and local representatives. We have many initiatives that, quite frankly, won't move towards this type of leadership. What's more, I will work to ensure that we run our city government as a tight fiscal ship. And like any business, it's imperative that we take a closer look, some of you know what that means, at our ledger sheet to make sure we are running as efficiently as possible.
Thank you, Councilman Paul. Mayor Newton?
Thank you. I'm going to start off with a question. Can you remember when you first visited our city? Most of you fell in love with Norcross, and it was love at first sight. Others have warmed up to our city after a couple of visits. But regardless of how you got here, the result was the same. You knew you wanted to call Norcross home. So for those who don't know me, I'm blessed to have been born and raised here. Before me, some remnants of my family have been here since the 1800s, actually. I got married and about 39 years ago, I have to say that because my wife is sitting there. Exactly 39 years ago, to my wife Lynn, we've raised 4 great kids. And we all went to Norcross High School. Not at the same time, but we all graduated from Norcross High School. I've traveled to most every country in the United States. Every city, every major city in the United States, and several different countries during my 33-year tenure at a company called Mayoral. We manufacture scientific analytical laboratory equipment And for several years, I had 2 positions as 2 separate corporate managers there. So yes, I'm a techie, and I admit it. And yes, there is no place like Norcross that I've traveled. So my point was, though we've all arrived here at different times, the result is the same. This is where we all call home. And like you, I want the best schools, I want the safest neighborhoods, I want great service delivery, and I want the highest quality of life possible. But to get there, we must have bold, decisive leadership if we're going to move forward. I've been vetted by the city 10 times as council member and once as mayor. And in 20 years, I've only missed 1 council meeting. My dedication to this council, my love for the people here, the new projects that I've started, coupled with the fact that I really do care about the city's future, are just a few of the reasons that I'm running for a 2nd term as mayor. I'm focused on our future, and I ask for another vote of confidence on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Newton. Now we will commence with the first question dealing with the Downtown Historic District. And we will begin with Mayor Newton. In regards to the Downtown Historic District, would you leave as is or expand, or would you supplement the infrastructure improvements to help prevent building decay, etc.? Or would you increase convenient parking, and if so, why?
I guess I'll answer that question. If we leave downtown Norcross the way it is, it would simply decay. Anything that's not growing is actually dying. So it's important to support that infrastructure. Now, how do you do that? There's several different ways that we can support our downtown infrastructure, but primarily that support needs and must come from our DDA, because the DDA actually can provide facade grants. They can provide multiple opportunities for the businesses to grow. They can actually provide dollar grants to our businesses. So we'd have to do that through our downtown development. That's what the DDA is for. So in closing, and you mentioned parking.
Yes.
Gosh, we've had about 5 different parking studies. And guess what? They've all said the same thing. So why do we keep having parking studies? 1 minute. It's imperative that if we spend money on these studies, we actually should implement the course of action that's prescribed to us by these studies, and not keep spending money over and over for the studies that's going to say the same thing. And most of our studies said that we have ample parking, but we simply have not planned and don't utilize the parking spaces that we have in Norcross already. So that's, my time is up.
Councilman Paul.
The Downtown Historical District is the gem of Norcross, and I think we all know that. Anybody that comes into town is wowed by, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Keeping the buildings, and of course we don't, for the most part, the city does not own any of the buildings. There are landowners that actually own the buildings and people that lease the buildings that are inside. So there are some grants that are available. I know if you go to the Iron Horse right now, the Iron Horse Tavern, there's an awning on the back that I helped them get a facade grant, and that came through the DDA. All those grants that can be done through the DDA help improve our downtown area. Parking is certainly a different issue. I've been involved with downtown Norcross before I even lived here. I started back in 2006, and I would go to the PDC, a little group that meets at Wednesday at the coffee house, and we talk about parking and parking. Why is the parking so bad? Why can't we park on South Peachtree Street? So this past year, we did I worked with the merchants, and together we now have the merchants and employees parking either at the City Hall parking lot or at the extended railroad lot. So all the people that used to park at the crossing parking lot, the side parking lot, I went there for lunch today, and there must have been 25 spaces available there. It's working. It's not the end-all, be-all, but I think it's working. And that's due to the fact that nothing was done from probably 2006 until this past year. And I'm very proud of that. And if you go downtown Norcross for lunch right now, you can probably find a place to park.
Thank you. The next question, and the first one, it will go to Councilman Paul to answer first. This question is dealing with annexation. What is your position on annexation to expand the footprint of the city, and under what circumstances is it appropriate?
I think annexation is appropriate in certain circumstances, but the circumstances that revolve around the annexation area that we're talking about, to me, does not make sense. It was proposed to us about January of this year, and to move it forward. And the more we found out about it, the more I found out about it, the more I felt like it was not a good move for the city. I think it'll hit the pocketbooks of the people that are sitting in this room in terms of taxes. The area is 50 to 60 years old. Some of the development down there has been built out. The stormwater is not in good shape. There's 40 car-related businesses in this area. There's 2 more extended stays, which I don't think we need any more of those in our city. They're disjointed from downtown. If you think about trying to bring downtown together, you have to cross Jimmy Carter, you have to cross the commercial area, you have to go all the way down to the DeKalb County line. And that, to me, that doesn't make sense. I think we should rescind it. I brought it up in our policy session this past Monday, and I'll stick by my statement.
Thank you. Mayor Newton.
Very good question. Annexation. Why is it being proposed? Well, at a council retreat about 2 years ago, a staff member presented the topic of annexing for our future. The staff member made a compelling argument that if we are to secure our future for the next 10 to 20 years, we must annex. Because our city is almost built out. Look around you. And yes, several attempts to annex Technology Park and OFS, those areas, they failed. So this is not our first blush at annexing and trying to secure our future. But after months of gathering data, crunching the numbers by professionals, examining the pros and cons, the council members' unanimous vote, by unanimous vote, and I have to say that again, by unanimous vote, decided to proceed with the annexation. The council then directed me as mayor, and the mayor has no vote unless it's a tie, but I was given direction to move forward with this annexation. I spent countless hours with staff and professionals lobbying our state representatives for support, and our state representatives actually vetted the numbers both from us and from the county. They chose our numbers. Now I understand that this is a manufactured wedge issue, and I understand politics, but this does not belong there, as it directly impacts our future as a city and our children's future. This annexation ensures that our city's capacity to grow economically and sustainably over the next 20 years is secure. Now, again, we vetted our numbers. Our consultant's projection is that we can generate at least $5.5 to $6 million annually with an operating cost of $3.6 million to service the area. And those are conservative numbers. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, and we will begin, this is a two-part question here, so we will begin with Mayor Newton first. This question deals with terms. Part one of the question is, do you support changing the mayor and council terms to longer than 2 years? And if so, how many years? 3 or 4? And the second part of that question is, do you support term limits? And if so, how many? Mayor Newton?
That's a good question. And again, this is the third time around for this issue. And it's deja vu all over again. Now, it was discussed by the council to simply send it through legislation, through local legislation, but I'm glad the council decided to make this a citizens vote instead of a legislative issue. Now, unfortunately, the Georgia Code of Law prohibits an elected official from advocating for or against any referendum coming before a public vote, or using public facilities to advocate for votes for or against a referendum. So I have to freeze my thoughts there. So I'll only say that I guess wrong 2 times when I thought the citizens were supportive of 4-year terms. And this time we'll allow the citizens to vote on this issue once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Paul.
The referendum that will be on the ballot November 5th, for those of you that have already voted early, or those of you that wait until November 5th, is a referendum that I got through the legislature this past year. We've talked about not term limits so much, but we've talked about 2-year, 4-year terms since 2006 that I can remember. There's only one other city in the county, Grayson, which has a population of 2,000, that has 2-year terms. If you want to become a new city in the state of Georgia, you have to have 4-year terms. Continuity, cost, direction of learning the city staff learning new council members is very complicated. It takes a long time. I'm at the end of my 2nd year, and of course now you're kind of going through the cycle of being rehired or changing jobs or going for your council seat a 2nd time around. The changing demographics in our area, I think the last referendum, and the 2 referendums that were done before this one were not binding referendums. Whatever happens November 5th, if we vote for 50% plus 1, if we vote 4 years, it's law. If we vote no, then it'll be law that way. But I think we need to do that. The 2 referendums that were done previously were non-binding referendums. I call them straw polls. And I think our demographics and the number of people that have moved into the area have changed dramatically, and everybody I've talked to wonders why we have 2-year terms. And I just tell them, because we've always had 2-year terms. And I don't think that's a good reason to have them.
Thank you. Next question deals with redevelopment. And we will begin with Councilman Paul. Do you have a vision for what the Beaufort Highway corridor should look like in the future?
I think Beaufort Highway is, I call it a diamond in the rough. If any of you get the Atlanta magazine, if you look at last month's article, the cover page says 24 hours on Beaufort Highway. It must talk about 130 restaurants on Beaufort Highway. And if that doesn't give you an idea of what it could be and how close it is to it's part of our city. It's like right down the street. What could happen down there with the library and the apartment complex that is under construction, which you can see out this window, is incredible. And I'm hoping that those 2 complexes alone will start a domino effect on Beaufort Highway that'll go north, it'll go south, it'll go across the street. We'll have all kinds of development. Now exactly what kind, we don't own the buildings, but I think we can certainly involve people like Georgia Tech, University of Georgia, get some interns. I know one of our council folks is with Perkins and Will, and he's talked about having interns come in and help out to give us some ideas as to what could happen down there. But we need to possibly develop with the DDA as well and get parcels of land and maybe connect those parcels to where it's actually worth doing a larger project than instead of just a restaurant or a building or what have you. You can assemble a large group of buildings and really do some really neat things on Beaufort Highway. I think Beaufort Highway will always be a little bit different than downtown Norcross, but I think that'll just make it more unique.
Thank you. Mayor Newton.
Thank you. Earlier this year, I convened a meeting with the DDA, the council and staff, and professional consulting to discuss the possibility of creating a core group to begin what I term Beaufort Highway Corridor Study, Beaufort Highway Corridor Master Plan. Now, my strategic plan was to begin a study that would result in crafting a 10-year master plan for this corridor all the way from Jimmy Carter Boulevard to Beaver Ruin Road. Now, Jacobs was there, and they presented a guideline that we could use to start the project. And again, my goals We're to be proactive, not reactive to what we see on Buford Highway in the next 10 years. In actuality, Buford Highway is suffering from benign neglect from the city, to be completely honest with you. I think that we should take full advantage of our investment that we've made there at the Brunswick and the library. That corner is going up really fast, and surrounding property values will increase. I think number three, we have to engage the DDA in a sustainable number of projects. This will give the DDA a sustainable number of projects for a very long time. Once this study is completed and we begin actually implementing that study. But we need to expand our downtown core eastward, and this will increase property values, and also it will increase our tax digest. Now, due to budget constraints, we were forced to reduce the effort for now, but we will continue to gather information with the two council members, Elaine Puckett and Dan Watch, who volunteered to and committed to continue this project with the DDA. Thank you.
Thank you. As the city is becoming more diverse from year to year, as an elected official, what can you do to promote inclusion and opportunity for engagement? Mayor Newby?
Well, I think it's important. I think it's important that we know and we understand that our demographic here in Norcross is changing. It's not going to go back in the way it was 15, 20, 30 years ago. It's important to engage our brothers and sisters from across Buford Highway, understand their needs, and actually try to come together and some consensus on how we can grow and we can prosper together. Because I feel that we have an opportunity here. The businesses there on Buford Highway, they are actually prospering. And maybe we can learn some lessons from some of what they're doing there on Buford Highway. But this is an opportunity for us to come together, not to separate and come apart, because I believe that that's how we can best grow in Norcross together.
Thank you. Councilman Ball.
The population of the Hispanic population of Norcross is close to 50%, most of it being on the east side of Buford Highway. I spent several hours on the other side of Buford Highway with a translator going door to door, and it was very enlightening to me. Some nice folks live over there, a lot of workers. You see a lot of their cars and the trucks and that are in the driveways. It tells that they're all, a lot of them are construction workers. They work in the area around us, but they live in that area. And I asked some of them, it's like, where do you work, where do you live, where do you eat, and so on and so forth. And I think for those of us that live on this side of Buford Highway, we've always tried to open our doors and say, why don't the folks on the other side of Buford Highway come over and visit with us, or why can't we see the folks over there more often? And I've decided that if I'm elected, I would like to go over to the other side of Buford Highway, and I've already reached out to St. Patrick's Church. I'd like to go to where the folks live and go with the translator and maybe pick up some Spanish on the way and find out what it is we can do to more connect the folks together from our side of Buford Highway and the other side of Buford Highway, because I don't think they just live in a different demographic, but they're great people. They love what they do. They live in some nice neighborhoods, and it's just a different demographic. I think we can all live together. So that's what I would like to do.
Thank you. How do you define affordable housing? And do you think that additional affordable housing is needed in the city? And if so, how should this be addressed? Councilman Ball.
To my understanding, the affordable housing is 30% of your income. If it's more than 30% of your income going towards rent, you're in affordable housing, or you need affordable housing. The other side of, or the east side of Buford Highway has a limitless number of price points that are certainly different than our side of Beaufort Highway. And there are some nice areas over there, so I don't know that we have that much of a problem with having affordable housing in total, because we can go from probably 150,000 on one side of the street, and we could probably go up to about 850,000 on this side of Beaufort Highway. So the market is definitely there. It's just a question of where you want to live and where you can afford to live. I think we should always reach out. I think we have done the Live Norcross, where we just donated, not donated, but we put in the city council $25,000 that will be matched by United Fund. That'll take about 15 to 18 households and take them from possible extended stays into actual apartment living or home living with some real confines around how that thing works over a period of years in terms of accountability. And I think it's an awesome thing that we've done, and we'll see how that works in the next year.
Thank you. Do you feel that as an elected official, you should be held to
Why don't I answer that question?
Oh, I'm sorry. My deepest apologies.
That's okay, I'm not trying to skirt that issue. I've coined the phrase or the name East Norcross because several of my citizens in East Norcross felt insulted because we always referred to them as the other side. So if you hear me refer to East Norcross, I'm referring to East Norcross. Now, affordable housing is a hot topic, not only here in Norcross, but across the United States. We have here in Norcross, we have many residents from all walks of life that are simply paying too much of their paychecks for housing. I was invited to Latina Mothers breakfast, and I spent the morning with 20 Latino families, and we talked about housing, and we talked about some of the problems that Bella Apartments is part of where they're living, and which is an issue that I've addressed with the state and with the county. So the definition of affordable is 30% of your paycheck. And if you're spending 30% of your paycheck and you're not living affordable, you are turned cost burden. And I thank Mayor Bucky Johnson for his initiative earlier, a couple of years ago with Live Norcross, which has offered several recommendations on how to assist families and individuals who are cost burdened. We need to revisit land banking in order to acquire the purchase and renovation and sale of homes. I think that's a tool that we can use. Live Norcross has just initiated what's called Hotels to Home program that helps families transition from hotels to home buyers. That's great progress that we made.
Thank you. I do apologize for that. Do you feel that as an elected official, you should be held to a higher code of ethics than the others? Mayor Newby.
Well, let me just say, yes. Last year I worked with legal to create the city's first ethics ordinance. And the impetus was to educate council and staff on best practices relative to the topic because of what I saw as ignorance of the law, to use another phrase. And I didn't see any ill intent. It was just simply that the elected officials weren't aware that you can't meet three at a time without having a called meeting or without it formally being announced. And there were some other issues that I saw, and the best way that I felt that we could get it resolved or get that issues contained through an ethics ordinance. I've attended 2 GMA ethics courses and 2 open records classes and found that on occasion newer council members were not in compliance. But again, it's a learning process. An ounce of prevention, I felt, is worth a pound of cure in this case. I believe that elected officials should be held to a high standard because we've been given a public trust. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Paul?
I would applaud Mayor Newton for bringing up the ethics amendment to City Council this past year. It was, if I remember correctly, it was passed 5-0. And I will go back to my 2-year, 4-year, being in my second year and learning all the rules that go along with open meetings and anything that goes with things that happen within the city, whether it be email or meeting people or what you can take from people. I mean, not take, but lunches or whatever. It's a learning curve. And I guess that goes back to my 4-year pop is the longer you're within government, the more you learn. And of course, Mayor Newton's learned a lot in Savannah in the last several years in terms of hours. And I'm learning as I go, but I've certainly learned a lot. And I think being ethical, obviously, we want to have standards above and beyond the regular citizenry, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. Thank you.
Thank you. The 2019 millage rate of 6.749 was approved on 8/5/2019. Is this an appropriate rate? And if not, what should it be and why? Councilman Paul.
Raising taxes is never fun. I went through the first budget, my first year, which was 2 years ago, and we were underwater in terms of balancing the budget. Came through this year and we were kind of in the same situation, and we had to make a hard decision as to how to balance the budget. And raising the millage rate was part of the process. As a city, I think we have, in a sense, we have more money going out than we have coming in. And we have people that are asking for services, whether it be parks or maintenance or roads or sidewalks or people want more, and as a city, we try to provide it. And I think we do a very good job of it. If you haven't been to Pinnacle Park to see what was put over there, it's a 12-acre park. It was about $2 million. A lot of it was SPLOST money, and the SPLOST money is great. And people say, well, yeah, let's just use SPLOST money to buy this park. And you do, and then it's like, well, you got to put cameras in it, you got to clean it, you got to mow it. You have graffiti, you have all the stuff that goes with any park, anywhere, it doesn't matter. So we did a comp plan this past year, which we do, I believe it's every 5 years, and that was $250,000. So there were some shortfalls that came in that created the reason to having to raise the millage rate. But to me, that should be the last thing that we do. We need to take a laser focus to our budget, look long-term, look at medical benefits, look at retirement benefits, look at all those things that are annuities. Hiring a new person, it's not just the salary, it's the annuity of the benefits that go with it, and it goes year by year by year. So, and I will thank you.
Yes, this is one of my favorite topics, raising millage rate. Not really. This was discussed, raising the millage rate to the current millage rate was discussed at length by Mayor and Council on several occasions. Now, in past years, we offset the raising the millage rate by using reserve funds. That's not sustainable. I met earlier in the year with our city manager, and he explained that we were headed down a road that we really need to take a close look at raising our millage rate. And I was really reluctant and gave a lot of pushback, but he convinced me that our current way of balancing the budget was not sustainable. Now, in relative terms, just like balancing your home's budget from your savings account. Now, because we've done that for several years, it reached a pivotal point in our budget cycle. Our tax digest didn't grow as fast as our expenses did. And the services that we provided for the city, we know that we have to make sure that we provide excellent service delivery for our citizens. Now, some of the gating items that helped to push this over the top were 2 years fixed cost, which increases at 5% annually. $800,000 we spent for police cameras, and we actually lost a significant amount of revenue from a Freeport exemption. We've not gotten a return on that investment yet. We lost Geneva. We lost West Rock to Perimeter Center, all culminating in this mill increase. So I've admonished staff and council to look at ways to reduce volatility and generate tax digestion along with my own efforts to do so.
Thank you. This will be the last question to you. What types of future residential development do you envision and support, Mayor Newton?
Future residential development. Well, let me just say that my time's up already. No. Let me just say that our economy is cyclical, and there's been 47 recessions in the U.S. In our history, 47. And next year, they're predicting a slowdown. And as you ride through the heart of Norcross, you can't help but to notice the construction sites that are in progress. We have over 750 housing units that are either coming out of the ground or in process. We expect the completion of the Brunswick. It's 185 multifamily units. It's a $40 million capital investment. Broadstone, Norcross, with Alliance Residential. It's a 357 residential and 65 townhome, $85 million investment. And you have the Kelly, is another development which includes residential townhomes, and that's near Jimmy Carter Boulevard and West Peachtree. 47 townhomes priced at about $300,000 each. And of course, they're going to have green space. Then here close to downtown, you have the old Norcross Estates. It's planned 14 homes flanked by 2 of the oldest oak trees along with these Victorian homes. And these are all walking distance in our historic district. Our future development will simply hinge on the fact that we're almost built out in Norcross, which is one of the reasons why we need to look at other ways to expand. Annexation is another opportunity that we certainly need to look at to plan for a future residential redevelopment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Hall?
If you've driven into Buckhead on Peachtree Industrial, just go down and look through Chamblee, Brookhaven, and see the high rises and the density, which is incredible, especially if you go back to the recession when all the car dealerships were almost like shuttered. And that movement is moving from Brookhaven to Chamblee to Doraville, and it'll eventually hit us, and I think that'll be a good thing. When you look at Beaufort Highway and what we have, I think that's where we have our biggest advantage of densifying the area. I think there will be more apartment complexes built up and down Beaufort Highway, and I think that'll just catapult into different businesses up and down our area that'll be helpful to downtown Norcross. I think we should be open to all kinds of residential living, whether it be single family, multifamily, townhouses. I think we need an over 55 community of some sort. Where that would be located, I don't know, but I think we could use one. I think there's all kinds of opportunity for new housing, and we should be open to it. Are we built out? We're built out in a sense. I mean, if you look across east of Beaufort Highway, a lot of those apartment complexes are one floor, one story. Eventually, I think what will happen with a lot of those apartment buildings, they'll be torn down and they'll be built with multi-story, maybe 3 or 4. Because if you look at the land use, I mean, that's where it's going to go. You have to go up. And I think that's where we're headed.
Thank you. Mayor Newton.
I've already answered that question. I can answer it again if you'd like.
No. We're to the closing.
Okay.
Mayor Newton.
Thank
Gotcha.
you. got it. Well, I have to start out again with a question. Where do you see Norcross in 10 to 20 years? To assume that it will stay the same is tantamount to, in my opinion, the benign neglect that we've seen on Beaufort Highway. From my experience living here, I've seen many changes. From a sleepy bedroom community with ranch homes when I was born growing up here, to 3-story executive style homes. From a boarded up downtown with poor infrastructures to a vibrant and eclectic downtown that's a metro Atlanta destination. From 1-floor mediocre schools with poor infrastructures to 4 great new schools in both size and quality of education. From a city with poor sidewalk infrastructure to a walkable city with a network of sidewalks throughout our entire city. Now, none of this would be possible without solid leadership. And you need experience in the mix. Leaders who will follow their convictions and their decisions to the end and not reverse course in midstream due to political pressures. And I believe that this city, in my opinion, is at a moral and economic tipping point. People know that I cannot be bought because I answer to a high authority. People know that I believe in openness. I believe in open and honest government where we all take part in the decision-making process. So the choice is yours. If you like progress, if you like the changes you've seen over the last couple of years, if you like the events, if you like the newfound direction that the city has taken under my leadership, and I am your choice. My campaign pledge is simple. And that one pledge is to continue to improve the quality of life for all who call Norcross home. Thank you. God bless our city.
Thank you. Councilman Cole.
I think we all love Norcross. I know I do. 2 years ago, I considered running for mayor, but decided that I would benefit from 2 years on city council. Into my second year, I observed that the communication and collaboration from the mayor's office was not what it could or should be. In fact, the interaction with council was disappointing to me in particular, and to those from the DDA, I think it was troubling to say the least. I could have run for my council seat again this year, but I felt in my heart I wanted to run for mayor for that reason. If elected, I see a bright future to run and be in a part of Norcross. When we talk about some of the things that are going on, we've got Beaufort Highway, which is, again, a diamond in the rough. We have the Beaver Ruin Greenway, which I will call Norcross's Beltline. We have the Social Fox Brewery coming next spring. Freeze Cream Ice Cream is coming soon. I see Skin Alley reimagined as a pedestrian-friendly back to our downtown. Farmhouse 17 block is to be bookend to the other side of downtown, which would be incredible for the folks that live in Lumhow and Colonel Jones and 7. The Holiday Inn Crown Plaza should open next year. And of course, Mayor Newton talked about the Brunswick, the Broadstone, and the Kelly. And the potential of new and experiential businesses in our downtown area are limitless. We have some folks that are going out, but we also have some folks that are going in. We have a new nail salon that's going in, and I guess I thought about, well, I don't know if that's going to be a good deal or not, but the more I think about it, I think it'll be good. In order for all of this to happen, though, it's imperative that we have a mayor that listens, communicates, collaborates, and leads. Those attributes are in my DNA. Being mayor means more than just showing up at ribbon cuttings and Friday night concerts. It means getting and staying involved. It means not only listening, but asking the right questions to our citizens to find out what really is on their mind, and then taking the appropriate action. Anyone that knows me knows that I'm passionate when it comes to Norcross. So I ask for your support, and more importantly, I ask for your vote. And finally, I'd like to thank Melvin for moderating, city staff for putting this together, Pam Ledbetter and the Accent Creative Group for putting the event together in its total totality. And most of all, to you that are here tonight that care enough about the future of Norcross. Thank you so much.
Thank you. moderated the councilman forum here a couple of nights ago, I said all over Georgia and all over America could learn a whole lot by watching this. This is the way it's supposed to be, ladies and gentlemen. Regardless of who your candidate is, we have to get back to civil discourse when it comes to politics, or we all in trouble. Once again, thanks to the candidates, the city, the Gateway 85 CID, and all of you for coming to this important forum. You are encouraged to do your civic duty by voting. Early voting has begun and runs through November the 1st at City Hall. Election day is Tuesday, November the 5th. If you were unable to attend last Thursday's council's forum, I encourage you to go to the city's website and watch the video posted there. Once again, thank you for coming, and you may meet the candidates and ask further questions out in the foyer. Give them a round of applause. Thank you.